Have you ever imagined a place where women are literally put up for sale? A market where young girls, some just 13 years old, are displayed as merchandise, evaluated for their appearance, domestic skills, and above all, their purity? Welcome to Bulgaria, a European country where, hidden from tourist routes and international spotlights, one of the continent's most controversial rituals takes place annually, the Gypsy Bride Market. On the outskirts of Stara Zagora city, gypsy families gather at a festival that, to many, seems straight out of another century. Young women dressed in colorful clothes and excessive makeup are presented to potential buyers, while parents negotiate values that can reach thousands of euros. How much is your dowry worth? This question echoes between makeshift stalls, determining the fate of girls who have barely left childhood. But Bulgaria is a country of absurd contrasts. Just a few hours from this medieval market, carefree tourists enjoy paradise beaches on the Black Sea, visit thousand-year-old Orthodox churches, and taste internationally awarded wines. How can a European Union member country harbor such different realities? And what does this contrast reveal about a nation desperately trying to balance between ancestral traditions and European modernity? Today, we'll unravel Bulgaria's secrets, from its glorious imperial past to challenges of a present marked by population exodus, corruption, and controversial traditions. Get ready for a journey to a country that was once one of the most powerful empires in the medieval world, but now struggles to find its place in modern Europe. Bulgaria, officially the Republic of Bulgaria, occupies a strategic position in southeastern Europe, serving as a gateway between Europe and Asia. With an area of 110,994 square kilometers, approximately the size of Ohio, the country borders 5 nations: Romania to the north, Serbia and North Macedonia to the west, Greece and Turkey to the south, plus the Black Sea coastline to the east. Bulgarian territory is surprisingly diverse for a relatively small country. To the north, the Danube River, Europe's second largest river, forms a natural border with Romania. The center of the country is cut by the Balkans, an imposing mountain range that divides the country into 2 distinct climatic regions. To the north, a continental climate with harsh winters. To the south, Mediterranean influences bring hot, dry summers. The population, estimated at about 6.5 million inhabitants, has been drastically declining in recent decades, a problem that haunts the country's future. Bulgaria has the world's fastest population decline rate, losing about 50,000 people annually, mainly through emigration and low birth rates. Experts predict that if the trend continues, the population could fall to less than 5 million by 2050. Sofia, the capital, is home to more than 1.3 million people and is the country's political, economic, and cultural center. Other important cities include Plovdiv, one of Europe's oldest continuously inhabited cities, and Varna, the main port on the Black Sea. Geopolitically, Bulgaria occupies a complex position. A member of the European Union since 2007 and NATO since 2004, the country still maintains historical and cultural ties with Russia. This duality between West and East is not just diplomatic, but also cultural, defining the unique identity of this country that for centuries served as a bridge between different worlds. Bulgaria's history is an epic saga of empires, conquests, and rebirths. It all began more than 7,000 years ago, when the Balkan region hosted some of Europe's first civilizations. The Thracians, a warrior people skilled in metallurgy, dominated these lands for centuries, leaving gold treasures that still amaze the world with their sophistication. The true Bulgaria, however, was born in 681 AD, when Khan Aspru, leader of a Turkish-Bulgarian nomadic people, crossed the Danube and established the first Bulgarian Empire. It was the beginning of the first organized nation of the Eurasian steppes, which would soon become a powerful political entity, even rivaling the Byzantine Empire. The peak of this first kingdom came under Tsar Simeon I, the Great, in the 10th century. His empire stretched from the Black Sea to the Adriatic Sea, making Bulgaria a cultural and military power. It was during this period that the country adopted Orthodox Christianity and developed the Cyrillic alphabet, used to this day by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. But glory would be interrupted by the Byzantines, who conquered the country in 1018, beginning 168 years of foreign rule. Resurrection came in 1185, with the Second Bulgarian Empire, another period of cultural splendor and territorial expansion. However, in the late 14th century, Bulgaria faced its darkest period: conquest by the Ottomans. Turkish rule lasted nearly 5 centuries, a period known as the Ottoman Yoke, marked by cultural and religious repression. Bulgarians were forced to pay special taxes. Thousands of young men were forcibly recruited into the Ottoman army under the Devshirme system, and revolts were brutally suppressed. Freedom only came in 1878, after the Russo-Turkish War. when the Russian Empire, self-proclaimed protector of Slavic and Orthodox peoples, defeated the Ottomans. Even so, full independence was only recognized in 1908. The 20th century brought new trials. Bulgaria chose a losing side in both world wars and, after 1945, fell under Soviet influence, becoming a communist republic for more than 4 decades. Todor Zhivkov's regime, which ruled from 1954 to 1989, left deep marks on Bulgarian society. From the persecution of ethnic minorities like Turks, forced to change their names to Bulgarian ones, to the creation of a feared secret police. The fall of communism in 1989 paved the way for democracy and market economy, but the transition was painful. Hyperinflation, unemployment, and widespread corruption marked the 1990s. Entry into NATO in 2004 and the European Union in 2007 brought hope, but also new challenges, including a massive wave of emigration that emptied entire villages and left the country with one of the world's most aging populations. Today, Bulgaria is a parliamentary democracy still struggling with the legacy of its turbulent past, but also proud of millennial history of resistance and survival. Bulgaria may be one of Europe's most underrated destinations, but those who venture into its lands discover incredible treasures at prices that seem from another planet. With tourism that mixes beaches, mountains, ancient history, and mouth-watering cuisine, the country has increasingly attracted travelers seeking authentic experiences away from crowds. The Black Sea coast is undoubtedly the country's tourist postcard. With over 350 kilometers of coastline, the region combines golden sandy beaches with crystal clear waters and prices that cost half of what you pay in Spain or Greece. Sunny Beach, Slancha Brayag, is the most famous resort, with bustling nightlife that attracts young people from all over Europe. For those seeking something more peaceful and authentic, the ancient town of Nezabar, a UNESCO heritage site built on a peninsula, offers cobblestone streets, centuries-old wooden houses, and Byzantine churches that seem frozen in time. But Bulgaria's true soul lies in its mountains. Bansko, at the foot of Mount Piran, has transformed into one of Europe's most affordable ski destinations, with quality slopes and infrastructure that improves every year. After a day on the slopes, there's nothing better than relaxing in one of the countless natural hot springs that bubble up throughout the country, a volcanic legacy that Bulgarians have enjoyed for millennia. For history lovers, Bulgaria is a true paradise. In Sofia, the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral, with its golden domes, impresses even the most experienced travelers. In Plovdiv, the country's second-largest city and European capital of culture in 2019, Roman ruins coexist with mansions from a Bulgarian national period and a vibrant art scene. And we can't forget the Orthodox monasteries like Rila, hidden among mountains 2 hours from Sofia, with stunning frescoes that survived centuries of Ottoman domination. For those planning to visit, some tips are essential. The best period is between May and September, when the weather is pleasant throughout the country. Although English is spoken in tourist areas, learning a few words in Bulgarian can open doors. Just don't get confused with gestures. In Bulgaria, shaking your head from side to side means yes, and up and down means no. In terms of safety, Bulgaria is considered a peaceful destination with low rates of violent crime. However, small scams against tourists can occur in busier areas, so always keep your belongings close. On the roads, extra attention is essential. Bulgaria has one of the European Union's highest rates of traffic accidents. A word of caution. Although gypsy traditions like the bride market are well known, visiting them as a tourist attraction is extremely inadvisable. These are closed communities, and attempt to photograph or observe such rituals can be misinterpreted and even dangerous. Finally, it's worth mentioning the incredible value for money. With approximately 50 euros per day, you can stay in comfortable hotels, eat well in local restaurants, and still enjoy the attractions. A complete dinner with traditional shopska salata, salad with tomato, cucumber, and grated white cheese, a portion of kebabs, grilled meat patties, and a glass of rakia, local brandy, rarely exceeds 15 euros. The Bulgarian economy is a story of transformation, challenges, and stark contrasts. After the collapse of communism in 1989, the country faced a brutal transition to capitalism, marked by hyperinflation, massive unemployment, and the controversial privatization of state companies that enriched a small elite while impoverishing the majority of the population. Today, Bulgaria carries the unenviable title of the European Union's poorest country. The average monthly salary hovers around 1,500 Bulgarian leva, approximately 750 euros, or $800, far below the European average. For those living in big cities like Sofia or Plovdiv, this amount barely covers basic expenses. A modest one-bedroom apartment in the capital can cost between 500 and 800 leva, 250 to 400 euros, per month in rent, while basic supermarket shopping for a family easily exceeds 1,000 leva, 500 euros, monthly. This challenging economic reality explains a mass exodus of Bulgarians, especially qualified young people, to richer European Union countries. It's estimated that more than 1 million Bulgarians have left the country since joining the EU in 2007, creating a serious demographic and workforce crisis. Despite these problems, the Bulgarian economy has shown signs of progress. The technology sector, in particular, has flourished in recent years, with Sofia emerging as a regional hub for startups and software development. International technology companies have established operations centers in the country, attracted by qualified professionals and competitive salaries. Tourism, as we mentioned, represents about 12% of GDP and has grown consistently. Agriculture, a traditional strength of the Bulgarian economy, remains important, with the country being a major producer of sunflowers, wheat, and tobacco. An economic peculiarity of Bulgaria is its tax system of one of Europe's lowest rates, a flat tax of just 10% for both individuals and companies. This policy, implemented in 2008, aimed to attract foreign investment and combat the informal economy, which still represents about 20% of GDP. The national currency, the Bulgarian lev, has been rigidly pegged to the euro. 1 euro equals 1.95583 leva since 1997, as part of a monetary agreement that brought stability after years of galloping inflation. Bulgaria should have adopted the euro in 2024, but persistent problems with corruption and weak institutions have delayed this process. The country still faces a challenge of extreme regional inequality. While Sofia and some coastal cities thrive, the rural interior suffers from severe poverty, precarious infrastructure, and an increasingly aging population. In some remote villages, time seems to have stopped, with elderly people living on small pensions and subsistence farming in houses without running water or adequate central heating for the harsh Bulgarian winters. Behind the postcard landscapes and warm hospitality of the Bulgarian people, there are contrasting realities that reveal both the cultural richness and social challenges of the country. And perhaps no aspect is as controversial as the traditions of the Gypsy community, or Roma, as they prefer to be called. The Stairs Agora Bride Market, which we mentioned at the beginning, is just the tip of the iceberg of practices that frontally collide with modern European values. In these matrimonial fairs, known as Cyganski Tarzish, young women are evaluated not only for beauty, but for domestic skills and, crucially, their virginity. The values negotiated can range from a few thousand to tens of thousands of euros, depending on the quality of the bride and the status of the families involved. Defenders of these traditions argue that they preserve Roma culture and ensure alliances between families. Critics, on the other hand, denounce the practice as human trafficking disguised as tradition. The Bulgarian government finds itself in a delicate position. On one hand, European Union pressures demand action against such practices. On the other, their fears that heavy interventions might further alienate an already marginalized community. The Roma represent about 5% of the Bulgarian population officially, although unofficial estimates suggest much higher numbers. Living predominantly in segregated communities known as Mahala, they face systematic discrimination in education, employment, and health. The dropout rate among Roma children reaches 90% in some areas, perpetuating cycles of poverty and exclusion. But Bulgarian controversies go beyond ethnic issues. Endemic corruption has been a persistent cancer in society. In 2020, the country was shaken by massive anti-corruption protests, with demonstrators accusing then Prime Minister Boyko Borisov of turning Bulgaria into a captured state by oligarchs. It's no coincidence that Bulgaria consistently appears as the European Union's most corrupt country in international rankings. Organized crime, although less visible today than in the turbulent 1990s, when assassinations of public figures were common on Sofia streets, remains influential, especially in human trafficking for forced prostitution in Western Europe. Bulgaria is identified as one of the main countries of origin for victims of sex trafficking in the EU. Press freedom is another area of concern. Reporters Without Borders consistently ranks Bulgaria as a European Union country with the least free media, with investigative journalists facing intimidation, lawsuits, and even physical violence when investigating corruption or organized crime. A recent scandal that shocked the country was a discovery in 2020 that Bulgaria's largest psychiatric hospital kept patients in inhumane conditions, chained to beds and rooms without heating. The case exposed the precarious treatment given to people with mental disabilities, a legacy of the communist period when social problems were often hidden in remote institutions. Despite these challenges, Bulgaria also witnesses the emergence of citizen movements determined to transform the country. Young activists, many educated abroad and then returned to contribute to their homeland, have led anti-corruption, environmental, and human rights initiatives, bringing hope for a more just and transparent future. Bulgaria is a land of profound contradictions. A country with a weight of millennial history can be felt at every corner, but which struggles to find its place in the modern world. A nation that has produced brilliant scientists, Olympic athletes, and world-renowned artists, but sees its young talents leaving in search of opportunities abroad. Controversial traditions, like the bride market we mentioned at the beginning, reflect a country in transition, where the old and new coexist in a tense balance. But it would be unfair to define Bulgaria only by its problems or by isolated practices of specific communities. Behind the worrying statistics and sensational headlines, there's a resilient people who survived empires, invasions, and totalitarian regimes. A people who, despite everything, maintains a warm hospitality, a deep sense of humor, and an admirable ability to celebrate life, whether in traditional festivals that mark the seasons of the year, or in Sofia's busy cafes where young entrepreneurs plan the future. And there are positive signs on the horizon. A new generation of Bulgarians is taking the lead, bringing fresh ideas and a more global vision. NGOs work tirelessly to integrate the Roma population into society, offering educational programs and fighting stereotypes. Bulgarian startups gain international recognition, proving that the country has much more to offer than cheap labor. The gypsy community itself is undergoing internal transformations, with young Roma women challenging oppressive traditions and seeking education and autonomy. Activists within this community work to preserve the rich gypsy cultural heritage while fighting problematic practices like early marriages. The Bulgaria that emerges in this 21st century is a country beginning to reconcile its multiple identities, its historical ties with the East and its European aspirations, its rich folklore and vibrant contemporary culture, its respect for traditions and desire for change. As in all great stories of transformation, the path is not linear and the challenges remain formidable. But there's an energy in the air, a sense of possibility that transcends adversities. The same tenacity that allowed Bulgarians to preserve their identity during 5 centuries of Ottoman domination now drives them to build a future that honors the best of their past while embracing the opportunities of the present. Perhaps that's the true essence of Bulgaria. Not a country defined by contrasts or contradictions, but a nation in constant reinvention, writing its next chapter with lessons learned from a millennial history of survival and rebirth.